Make sure these microphones are working. Sounds good to me so far.
Where am I?
You are there.
What day is it?
You see your little blue bloops on the screen when you talk?
Am I just a digital signature?
That's your voice.
Blue with bloops.
Blue bloops. Thank you, Audacity, for your tasty blue bloops. Anyways, let's hit it.
Hey, this is Mustin, and you're listening to Embassy Exclusive, presented by the VG Embassy. Grab my new album, Mario Mixtape, at bit.ly/Mario Mixtape.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Embassy Exclusive. This is a monthly supplemental show for fans of the VG Embassy Game Music Podcast. I'm Ed.
I'm Joe.
I'm Todd.
And each month we get together and share video game music, the latest news in gaming, and our nihilistic Luma opinions on both. Joel will get that one. This is episode 44 for April 2023, our special Mario episode. I hope you all enjoy it.
It's going to be good.
Let's go.
Indeed. So we've got a super special episode today. One, because we're actually following a coherent theme, which we rarely do on the show. But we are celebrating two things. The release of Mustin's new album, Mario Mixtape, which he reached out to me and shared, and it is really, really cool. So, and he actually released that in celebration of the Mario movie. So we're kind of doing a little double extravaganza here. I think Joe and I have seen the Mario movie so far. Todd is going to see it, right?
I'm going to see it.
But it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And a lot of the music that Mustin released on Mario Mixtape kind of evokes the feeling of the film, I think. Probably I'm sure he hadn't even seen it when he composed the music, but it's really, really good stuff. We came in with the song Ground BGM from New Super Mario Bros. From Mario Mixtape. So it really gives you a good idea of the sound. It's smooth and jazzy and just really great production on it. So I'm looking forward to sharing some more music with that later on in the show. But before that, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, not bad.
Well, first of all, welcome back, Joe. You were
Thank you.
sorely missed last month.
I appreciate that. I was dealing with some stuff at work and at home, but things are better now, and I'm back. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, Justin came out and hung out with us, and that was a blast, but we did miss you, so we are glad you have returned in all of your garbage fingery glory.
Yeah, that's what she says. Or at least she used to.
Ouch. Anywho, what you guys been playing lately?
Well, I played my way through Octopath 2, which turned out to be better than the first one, in my opinion. Music is great. Gameplay is great. The dialogue is awful. I feel like it's written by, a 10-year-old.
I heard there were complaints about the first one too. Is it so it's kind of on par with?
Yeah, it's some. So there's 8 characters and 8 stories, obviously, and 3 or 4 of them are pretty good and are, caught me, and I wanted to know more about it, and I cared about the characters. And then the other 3 or 4 of them were like, oh, okay, that's kind of lame. And oh, okay, she just wants to leave home and explore the world. Oh, okay, and she just wants to make people feel good with her dancing, and that's kind of like the main.
Not particularly deep stuff.
It's like, oh, okay, and they make it a little better than the first one, where you get a chapter of the story, you go to the cave right next door to the town, you fight the boss, and then you go back to the town and move on to the next story. They switch it up a little more, so it feels fresh, I'll say, throughout the game. It's a little less linear, and there's a cool final chapter where the story comes together, and there's a million side things and hidden things that make it fun.
Okay, that's cool.
So all in all, I had a blast with it. Highly recommend it for anyone who enjoys Squaresoft games or liked the first Octopath. This one, I'll say, is better.
So it sounds like it's a little more cohesive towards the end, where people's complaints were that the 8 stories never really interacted very much. So
this one, they do tie it together. There's one, as you uncover all the stories, there's like a overarching darkness to the world, and they try to explain that. Some of the character stories are much more directly related to it, whereas others are kind of on the periphery, but they do a better job with it this time. And it's good. So I put, I'll say, 60 hours into it. I had a lot of fun with it, and I, leveled up my characters and did all the side stuff, and so that was great. The only thing that got me about that is when I got to the final boss, I didn't. You pass a point of no return. You're in the final dungeon at the final boss, but you need all 8 characters to fight the final boss, and I had only leveled up 4 of my characters for the vast majority of the game. So 4 were overpowered, the other 4 are underpowered, and they force you to switch out. And so I'm having a hard time with the final boss because half of my team is way under leveled.
Gotcha.
Can you split the team, have 2 powerful ones and 2 underpowered ones on one team and the other 2?
I had kind of set up the team to be cohesive for their skills to synergize. Oh. So I'm fiddling with it, and I'm gonna beat the final boss because it's close. But I messed up on it when I realized that I needed all 8 people, and then I rage quit, and then I started Flint Hook, which I've been playing for the last couple of weeks, essentially nonstop, and I'm hooked on that big time. That's one of those games where it gets to be 2 a.m, and I say, well, all right, just one more run, and just one more run after that, and then it's time to get up and go to work.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, so I got it bad. This game is fantastic. Anyone who likes roguelikes should give this one a try. It's done very well. The progression feels fun. The music is good. The gameplay is fair but fun, and you advance just enough each time you play, and you get just enough gems, and you can upgrade yourself just enough to get a little bit further next time, and it's keeping me coming back.
Cool. Very cool.
So I'm all about that at the moment.
Nice.
That'll hold me over until Zelda comes out next month.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, God, only next month. I got so much stuff to wrap up before then.
3 weeks, give or take. Was it the 12th, I think? I think it comes out May 12th.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So 3 weeks.
What about you, Todd?
Oh, man.
I played through a little casual game called Monorail Tales. A few Monorail Stories, possibly.
It just makes me think
Monorail
of The Simpsons.
Stories.
Yeah, that's where I went.
Makes you think of what?
The Simpsons.
Oh, The Simpsons, yeah. It was kind of like a visual novel. It's a story of 2 people that take mass transit, one going one direction, one going the other, and there is some weird interaction between them having to do with the other people that are on the monorail. It's just a story-based game.
That's cool. I love those. So
it was fun, but also very short.
Yeah.
There's the story branches out based on how you interact with other people. So there's different endings and stuff like that if you want to go through it multiple times. I went through it once. It was fun, but it was the kind of experience you want to have, that kind of experience, not don't expect a lot out of it, type of thing.
What was it for?
I played it. I played it on PC, but I think it's also on Switch and some other stuff.
No, it's modern. It wasn't like a
yeah. No, it's
20-year-old retro
pretty
game.
recent.
Yeah.
And I also played a little game called Webbed, which I played on Switch, which you play a little jumping spider, and it's like an action puzzle platformer type of a game.
Yeah,
really cute.
I think I have that on my wish list,
Actually a lot of fun. Pretty short, 5 maybe 7 hours in total, but really enjoyed it. They did a great job with use like spider webs to interact with the environment and other characters and whatnot, and you jump around on them or through them or whatever, and they did a great job. I had a lot of fun with it.
Cool.
Very recently, you may know that the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters have come out on console.
That's right.
Oh man.
Yeah, they just announced that they are in very short supply in stores right now.
I don't think it exists in stores, not in physical form anyway. Square did a very short run on their website of
Oh, it was
Switch.
web only? Okay.
Switch and PS4 releases.
Gotcha. They're selling for like
And
$200-$300.
they disappeared like immediately.
Yeah.
Todd told me about the one on PlayAsia, and I managed to snag one before they sold out.
Yeah.
And even it was $80 for the regular version.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's no joke. But I am for the first time started playing Final Fantasy 1, the Pixel remaster, and Square has absolutely nailed it in my opinion. They did a great job. So if the original 6 Final Fantasies are something you're interested in, I'm not telling anybody listening to this something they don't know, but I'm very much enjoying what Square has done with these games.
Cool. Awesome. As far as me, there was the new Vampire Survivors DLC, which was released about a week or so ago. Tides of the Foscari. Bunch of new characters, 2 new maps, tons of new weapons, so I did the thing where I just did nothing but play that until everything was completed again. But I have my self-challenge going on where I need to run every single character through every single map. So now that there's like 50 characters or something like that, now I have to run these 2 maps like 50 times each. But I'm going to be doing that much more casually than I was doing before. I feel like it's not so much effort to do that, but 15 minutes a pop. That's hours and hours of gameplay right there. But I had a lot of fun with it. There's going to be more DLC. They're going to keep releasing them until people just aren't interested anymore. So we'll see how long that goes on for. But
Until the money stops.
yeah, essentially, or until they decide to move on to a new game. But well worth it. Great music too. The levels are enormous, which is great because the original levels that started off with were just like repeating tiles that went on infinitely, and these are actual large areas that you can explore, which I like. Adds a lot to the game. And of course, like some little secrets and areas where you can get some bonus stuff. So it's cool. Aside from that, got back into SnowRunner. Finished the map that I was kind of stuck on, and now I'm like halfway through the most recent map. So
Chasing that dragon again.
chasing the SnowRunner dragon, slogging through that mud, but having a blast. This new one's cool. It's only 2 maps in the world instead of 4, so it's going to be a little easier to get through. And I think I feel like I'm already about halfway through it, and it shouldn't take too much longer to get the second half done. So there's that. And Lunark finally got released, a game that I kickstarted 4 years ago. It's been a long time. And it is a love letter to games like Flashback, Prince of Persia, etc., Out of This World. And I'm loving that one too. It plays more like, I'd say it's like a cross between Flashback and Nosferatu, that kind of rare-ish game on the SNES from Sega. A little heavier on the combat than Flashback, but so much fun. Really well written, really cool environments, great art, rotoscoped pixel art, cinematic cutscenes and stuff like Flashback had. So it's really good. I don't know how far I am into it, maybe about, again, like halfway through. But it's really good. Really good sci-fi storyline too, which I appreciate. So you not only get the gameplay, but then you meet all these cool characters and kind of learn about the world and learn more about yourself as you go through. So having a blast. Yeah. So
On your recommendation, I had Joe was putting an order into Limited Run, and I had him throw a copy
Sweet.
on his order of Lunark. And I started tinkering around with Flashback to get an idea of what, because you said that they were very similar games. We were talking a little bit before the podcast that I got stuck, and you gave me a hint to move forward, so maybe I'm going to get back to that. But I loved Prince of Persia, so this kind of thing seems right up my alley.
Yeah, I think Prince of Persia is a kind of a slow-ish game compared to Flashback, where Prince of Persia's got like really complex levels where you've got to decide how to get through each screen. Flashback's more of, like I said, a little more actiony, and some of the levels are play more like platformers than they do like puzzle games like Prince of Persia, but the same gameplay mechanics apply. But again, really good graphics, really good sci-fi story, so it's worth playing through. Before we get into our topics, I wanted to chat a little bit about the Mario movies, since that's one of the reasons why we're doing these topics today. Joe, what was your opinion? I mean, I loved it. I saw it very recently, and I was enamored with it. Way better than I thought it was going to be.
Same here. So I took my 7-year-old daughter to it, who's been playing Mario Kart and Kirby and Mario 3D World, and so she's just learning, how to use the controller and whatnot, but she loves the characters. So I told her I'd take her to the movie, and I think I enjoyed it even more than she did. From the very beginning, when they play the original Mario Brothers cartoon theme as the Mario Brothers commercial theme in the movie, I was just hooked from the first minute. I said, all right, I'm sold. And it just got better. The spirit was perfect. I loved the characters. I loved the voices. I loved the story was simple enough, so it wasn't anything, too amazing.
Yeah.
But it was what I was hoping for and more.
Right. And a lot of the critics called it fan service, but it worked so well. Like those are the things I wanted to see in movie form, and they just brought it to life in such a cool way.
And based on the after credits scene, I'm basically assuming they're going to create the Nintendo Cinematic Universe next, or continue the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, and I am all in. I will watch every one of them.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of the Marvel movies just because I wasn't really into comic books. I'm not against them. It just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, same here.
I've seen one or two of them, but I'm all in on Nintendo if they decide to make a Zelda movie and a Kirby movie and a Donkey Kong movie and a whole bunch of each of those. I'm sold. I will see all of them.
Yeah, it's funny. We were just talking on the Discord earlier today about what a Metroid movie and a Zelda movie might look like, considering, well, Link never talks, so would they try to keep on going with that in a Zelda movie? Should there be a Zelda movie? And how Samus was kind of silent too, but she talked a lot in other M, so I don't think they would have as much of an issue with Samus talking in a movie than Link, because Link, they kind of...
Unless you count the cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. But the NPCs in the Zelda games also kind of take note of the fact that he doesn't really talk. Oh, you're the silent type. So
yeah,
that would be interesting. I would rather see him talk. I don't want to have to deal with a freaking silent protagonist in an entire movie. So
I'd be kind of excited if they took Metroid or Zelda and made it live action. I mean, like Mario kind of has to be CGI, and Kirby would have to be CGI.
Yeah.
But I could see, honestly, a Legend of Zelda game or a Metroid game, like live, with live action.
Sure.
It'd be kind of cool.
But that would cause issues when you eventually got to the end where all the movies in the universe smashed together for Smash Brothers or something, and now you've got a mix of medias, and how do you really handle
that's true.
live action Samus with CG everybody else? So, I don't know. I think it's cool. I mean, the universe would work well if it was a bunch of Nintendo movies that eventually culminated in a Smash Brothers kind of against Dark Hand or whatever. Bowser's got to get on board.
I would, without hesitating, sign on to, buy a ticket for every one of them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
This is the first time I've actually seen something in theaters since before the pandemic, so I was psyched.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
And everybody was concerned about Chris Pratt doing Mario's voice, and I really thought he knocked it out of... I had no complaints whatsoever.
And because he even, I'll say, sort of poked fun at the critics by doing that opening scene with the over-the-top, I thought it just worked perfectly. It was fun. There were a million Easter eggs in it for fans, young and old.
Absolutely.
And I was all about it.
Yeah.
And I'm psyched.
I'm glad they kind of went with more of like the Brooklyn accent, like the Captain Lou Albano. You know, I felt that was a much better fit. And if Mario was just the squeaky Italian guy the entire way through it, I honestly don't think it would have worked as well.
No, it was done perfectly.
Yeah.
I can't wait for more.
So Todd, you got to go see it.
And before Disney buys Nintendo.
Oh, stop, please, no.
I know it's not funny. Well, this is all refreshing to hear because I did not have high hopes. I think a lot of people didn't. You know, it's like, oh, Nintendo taking another stab at this. This is not their first foray into TV and film. To varying degrees of success. But my hopes weren't high for this. And it's nice. It seems almost universally liked. So
You're right.
It's great for older fans. It's great for younger fans. It took Nintendo 30 years to recover from their last attempt.
Yeah.
It is definitely giving me hope to actually want to see it.
Yeah.
Like I had always planned on seeing it, but it was just, I'll see it when I get an opportunity. Someday it'll show up on Homebox or Netflix or something and I'll watch it there. But I don't know, maybe I got to go see it in the theaters while it's in there.
I think you should. I think you'll have a blast.
Yeah, it's worth it.
I think Jack Black makes an amazing Bowser. He was probably one of my favorite characters in the movie. So
yeah.
Definitely worth seeing.
Anything Jack Black does is...
Yeah. For sure. And he doesn't Jack Black it up so much in this one, but he's still very, very good.
He plays the character just right. He doesn't make him too much of a monster. He doesn't make it too cheesy, but they get it right.
There's an element of goofiness, and you almost kind of feel bad for him a little bit. Just very misguided. All right, so I guess that is our glowing recommendation for the Mario movie. If you have not seen it yet, please go out, do yourself a favor, and get it, or at least pre-order whatever digital media will come out once it's out of theaters if you don't feel comfortable going to a theater at this point, but totes worth it. All right, so let's move on to our topics, and starting off with that is our first track of the evening. Todd, what you got lined up?
I have Honeyhive Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. This was released on the Wii in 2007. Composers Mahito Yokota and Koji Kondo.
All right, be right back.
Welcome back. That was Honeyhive Galaxy from the original Super Mario Galaxy, released on Wii in 2007. Composers Mahito Yokota and Koji Kondo. A fun little ditty, but undeniably Mario.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of carries the motif that a lot of the other Mario Galaxy songs have.
Yeah, listening to a bunch of Mario songs, like, one thing that they're great at is keeping you knowing that what you're listening to is Mario soundtrack. It's like throughout the games,
right.
they're I don't know what it is about them, but you know that this is a Mario soundtrack.
I think the only exception I have to that rule is actually Mario Galaxy 2. I think it got a little too movie soundtrack-esque. It just didn't feel as dynamic and playful as the original Mario Galaxy soundtrack did. So of the two, the first one is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd agree with that.
But largely, Mario soundtracks as a whole, it almost doesn't matter what it is, are just like fun.
Yeah.
You know, like they're lighthearted and
You can pinpoint it pretty easily.
right. Yeah.
It's weird because it could be like a little bit of a rock song. It could be like a banjo farm tune. It could be, like a European or like a reggae kind of a thing, like the original Super Mario Brothers theme. But it's always got that quality that it's Mario, regardless of the genre that it's actually being performed in.
It's like with Mega Man. You could pick out a Mega Man song, not having any clue which game it's from, but oh no, that's definitely Mega Man. Same thing with Mario.
And if you had a large music vocabulary, I'm sure you could probably put together some commonalities of this is what makes it sound like Mega Man, but to a regular player's ear, you're like, oh, that sounds Mega Man-ish. Cool.
Sounds like Mega Man, yeah. Anyway, my topic for today has to do with our experience with Mario. And that is, what is your first experience playing a Mario game? And how did it affect your opinions of video games from that point forward in your life? My first Mario game, and probably both of yours as well, was the original Super Mario Brothers on NES. And that was a defining moment for me in gaming. I did play video games before the NES. I played some Atari, but I have no knowledge or I have no memory of what games they were.
Oh, really? Okay.
Or anything like that. I was probably, when was the NES released? 85? And then they came out with the Mario and Duck Hunt pack-in, a year or two later. So I was probably 7 or 8 when I got my NES. And so that was basically the time in my life when something like that would make a huge impact on me. And Super Mario Brothers definitely made a huge impact on me and was really what got me into video games. Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Mario, unlike you, I had an Atari 2600, or I had one at my grandparents' house. Anyone who listened to the last VG Embassy, I explained a little bit of that because I did an Atari 2600 kind of a parody episode. But I remember a lot of those games very distinctly, and I remember playing Freeway and Warlords and Combat, and I think it was because my dad and my grandfather and my little brother would all play, and I was like 3 years old, but I still remember it pretty well. So Mario wasn't necessarily my first gameplay experience, but I think it was the first game where I felt like the world was more alive and left less to the imagination, and you kind of like really understood what these objects were, because the Atari 2600 was mostly like, here's a couple of squares, this is your protagonist, or this is a car.
Read the manual to figure out what those squares actually are.
Right, exactly. So this didn't require you to have to stretch your imagination so far to play it. Plus, the music would just immediately grab us. And we would just be, going out to dinner with my parents. We had this big station wagon. It was, me and my little brother, my little sister, and my mom and my dad. And then my brother and I would just start humming the Super Mario Brothers song. And because we played it so much at home, the whole family would know it. So we'd all just be rolling around, singing the song together. And it was fun. And that was when I first kind of realized, you could do video game music outside of video games, as early as I was probably 86, 87 when it was brand new. So I think in terms of video game music, for sure, the first Super Mario Brothers really kicked off my love for that. There were a couple of tunes like, Reactor and everything that I shared on that Atari 2600 show that kind of got my brain turning as far as electronic and what music is in video games, but the NES really kind of cemented that fact for sure.
Yeah, there was an Atari at my grandparents' house. I think it was a 5200, not a 2600.
Oh, gross.
But I'm relying on very vague memory here, and I do remember playing it, but none of it really made any impression on me like Mario did. So yeah, like I said, Mario was the first one that really just attached itself in my brain and never let go.
I think my experience, Ed, is going to be pretty similar to yours. I remember playing Atari, when I was really little, but none of them were complete games the way Mario was, and that just sort of changed everything. It was, real gameplay, and like you said, you could tell what things were, and of course the earworms that was the soundtrack. I mean, to this day, any single you could play half a second of an original Super Mario Brothers tune from any point in the game, and I would immediately remember like sitting in front of my parents' TV as a kid, like playing the original Mario Brothers, because that was just like you guys, the first like real game that I had that, I mean, Atari was real, but the first complete game, I'll say, where there was a world and there were characters and there was music and it took time to beat, and you could still go back and do it over and over and over again. Whereas with Atari, Atari was fun, but Mario is what hooked me as a gamer, I'll say.
Yeah. Atari games were just kind of like pastimes. Just play while you're bored or whatever. But Mario really, you wanted to get better at it. You wanted to spend more time with it.
I looked forward to playing Nintendo when Mario came out.
Yeah. And I think, as a kid reading through the instruction manuals and stuff, you kind of wanted to know more about the characters too. And I think, having those worlds fleshed out as the games went on and as, there became more Mario media out in the world, you really got kind of like your wishes came true. I want to know who Mario and Luigi are. What are they doing here? Who is Koopa? Who's the princess? And then we find out about these things as we get older. And it's I think that's what makes Mario so timeless, is that we all grew up with them and gaining new information about them as we go.
Yeah.
So what we did, let me repeat that. So what we did is we reached out to Mustin and basically told him what our topics were for the show. And so I asked him asked him if he wanted to respond to those topics. And he graciously sent us some recordings of his opinions on all of our topics. So we're going to start off. I don't think we have any... we don't have any Patreon or listener responses for this one. So we're going to hear what Mustin has to say. And we'll be right back.
I don't exactly remember my first Mario experience, but the most impactful one for me, I had a choice at one point between two games I could pick because of some rewards thing my mom or grandma was doing. I don't know. It was either Faxanadu or Super Mario Brothers 3. And with my limited amount of knowledge and access to information, I mulled over what I had and I picked Super Mario Brothers 3. And I'm so glad I did, because that game has a huge impact on my life. Super Mario 3 has informed music that I've made as recently as a couple of months ago. It was a source from where I did an arrangement back in 2002, 2003 that brought a very important girl into my life. It's something that I just pick up maybe once a year on the Switch and play through it and just think about how much it has informed what I do. These sounds, the music, the ideas, it's just fantastic. I love it. And I think that there were a lot of simple things that were started in that game that continue on into this, as far as this Super Mario movie that we just saw. So it's a really impactful game. It's a really impactful series. I love Mario, and it will always be a part of my life.
Well said. Sounds like he's either a little younger than us, having started with Mario 3, or just got into video games kind of later on in life. But that's a really interesting starting point, Mario 3, because Mario 3, even having played a lot of video games when I was a kid, like Mario 3 did feel a little bit overwhelming when you get to that big map screen and you're like, wow, this is a lot of game to play. And then you realize there's 8 of these map screens, one for each world. There was just a lot of game in that cartridge. And I would think, maybe being a little kid and having that be one of your first video games, it would just feel maybe like even more so.
Such an amazing time in my impressionable gaming youth. The release of Super Mario Brothers 3. Mm-hmm. I mean, Wizard movie. Oh, yeah. Everybody is just
anticipating.
The hype was insane.
Excited isn't even the word for it. Like, I mean, the Wizard was just a giant advertisement, and I was there for it every second of the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I just consumed every little piece of media information that I could about the game, and I was so pumped. And it delivered. It was one of those rare things that doesn't let you down when you finally get your hands on it. And after what I felt at the time, and I know a lot of people did, but what I felt at the time was a disappointment with Super Mario Brothers 2. I was disappointed in it. A lot of people were, a lot of people weren't. It remains divisive to this day, I think, in some ways. I have gained an appreciation for it more recently, but at the time I was like, what is this? Mario Brothers 3 came back and they just absolutely killed it.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it felt like a more natural progression from the original Super Mario Brothers, for sure. Obviously, because Super Mario 2 was not originally a Mario game to begin with. But even so, I remember Mario 2. We were so into Mario Brothers at the time that when my brother it came time for his birthday. That was like the next holiday after Mario 2 got released, and we were just begging for it. So my parents gave my brother, like those cardboard boxes that you get clothes in from department stores. They put the Mario 2 box inside the clothing box.
You thought you were getting
and wrapped it up. Yeah, exactly. So he was like a little disappointed because we would have easily, when we were kids and we would get a Nintendo, we would know, we would see them under the tree and know exactly the shape of the box. So they really kind of pulled one over on him, and he was like, a little despondent opening up this clothes box, and then there's Mario 2 inside. So
that old gag.
So as hyped as we were for 2, the hype for 3, like you said, was even more so. We saw The Wizard in the theater, and it was just hype that was delivered on, exactly like you said. And each time there was more music and more gameplay and more graphics to just kind of drool over.
And it remains an incredible game to this day. I mean, I don't think it has aged poorly at all. Like it is still very playable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think it still holds up very well.
There's still the whole, which is better, Mario World or Mario 3 debate that kind of rages on infinitely. And for me, it's very hard to choose my favorite between the two.
They're both incredible games.
There's a really great episode of The Gaming Historian about the making of Mario World, and how it started as a direct sequel in the same art style as Mario 3 until they, I'll say, pushed it to the Super Nintendo and fully got to, I'll say, push the new Super Nintendo system to its limits to create it. If that particular topic is of interest, definitely watch The Gaming Historian's making of Super Mario World. He really gets into the differences between the two and what was going on with the creators and what they were trying to do.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see that. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Joe, what song do you have for us tonight?
I've chosen Star Maze from a much underappreciated game, Super Mario Land 2. Released for the Game Boy in 1992, composed by Kazumi Totaka.
One of my favorite composers.
And we are back. That was Star Maze from Super Mario Land 2, released on the Game Boy in 1992, composed by Kazumi Totaka. Oh man, I love that soundtrack. I love that game. It's basically the same things we were saying about Mario 3, but for Game Boy. And I feel it's always kind of been underrated or underappreciated in the Mario game universe.
I agree. I love this game. Yeah. I was going to pick a track off of the soundtrack before you got to it first.
Oh yeah, I really gave it a lot of thought, trying to figure out which one I liked the best, and decided on Star Maze. But although I could have picked almost anything, the whole soundtrack is amazing. And for its time on the Game Boy, like that was just unheard of for a game to have that good of a soundtrack, that many levels, that much gameplay to it. That's still, I'll say, playable today.
Yeah, it really felt like an NES game in your Game Boy. That was like the first time that ever happened in my experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I mean, the original Mario Land, also a good game, but nothing even close to this.
Right.
And while the song was playing, Ed showed me the fan-made Game Boy Color upgrade of this game, and I'm immediately going to go download that and put it on my Raspberry Pi to play alongside the original. So that's really cool. But that brings me to my topic. Who is your favorite and who is your least favorite Mario Universe character, and why? I'll go first. My least favorite has always been the baby characters. I don't know why, they just don't do it for me.
That's fair.
I don't like baby Bowser. I don't like baby Mario. I don't know. It just kind of bugs me. I wish I could say more than that. I just find them annoying. And I really gave a lot of thought to who my favorite character was, and I actually ended up doing a little research into it because I couldn't decide. But I ended up making up my mind when I read the story of the creation of King Boo. Are you guys familiar with what that was intended to be?
No.
You should read about it. The creator of Big Boo made it as kind of a joke because he was mad at his nagging wife, who he would say would appear out of nowhere and just sort of nag him. And I didn't know that. And the second I read that, I said, all right, I'm sold. That's my favorite.
That's amazing.
It's not a joke, or I don't think it's a joke. I read it on, I don't know, it was some Wikipedia about like the Mario creators.
Interesting.
And I just thought that was such a fun story, and that's how I picked. I mean, there's a million different characters I could say that I've loved and enjoyed over the years, but that's why I'm going with King Boo for the purposes of my question.
Nope, I can appreciate that for sure.
You guys?
I've always been partial to Luigi. When they did, I think it was on the Wii, when they did the like Luigi 20 year or whatever
the Year of Luigi.
The Year of Luigi.
Yep.
I loved it. Like they came out with the Luigi levels for New Super Mario Brothers, was it?
Yep.
Or one
Pretty
of
sure.
those games.
Yep.
And it was like a whole. It was almost like, you know, remember the old days of computers where they would come out with expansion packs instead of like one DLC level or something like that. And an expansion pack was basically doubling the size of the game. That's effectively what this is, but Luigi-based levels instead of Mario-based levels. And yeah, he's kind of a dopey guy, and like he just kind of does his own thing, but Mario always gets all the attention, so I've always kind of
Cheering for the underdog.
cheering for the underdog, exactly.
Exactly. I like it. Yeah, Luigi's got kind of a good place in my heart, too. I mean, I really like the Luigi's Mansion series.
Luigi's Mansion are great games.
Yeah, and he's amazing in Mario 2 as well. So even as like a little kid, he had the highest floaty jump.
Floaty jump.
The floaty jump was the best, with the little legs.
Little kicky feet. Yeah.
Either the floaty jump or the princess's actual float.
Hover
Jump.
jump.
Yeah,
hover
that was
jump.
more of a hover. Yeah. Yeah, because Luigi was just kind of a slower jump. So
Right.
floaty, I guess, is a way to do it. Lower gravity kind of a jump.
Right.
What about your least favorite?
That's tough. You know, I probably should have put more thought into this. You know, you're tempted to say Bowser because he's the bad guy, but you need a bad guy in order to have a good guy. So,
Sure.
So kind of has to be him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really. Let me think about it for a minute while you give your answers.
Okay, well, favorite hands down has got to be Wario. I've always loved Wario. He's just stupid and goofy, and I don't know. I've got a Wario sticker on the back of my car. I'm always Wario when I play Mario Party.
I can't wait till he makes an appearance in one of the Mario movies.
I hope he's in the next one for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. There was an interview with Jack Black where where he wanted Pedro Pascal to play Wario, and I think that would be so good. Yeah, I don't know. I always just liked him because he's and the WarioWare games are amazing too. Those are some of my favorite NES published games as well. Least favorite, I'm stepping away from the main characters and going with the really annoying characters. So I got two, Lakitu and I don't know what he's called, but it's the mask that chases you when you pick up a key in Super Mario Brothers 2.
Oh yeah, that guy's.
I hate that dude.
Old Masky.
Shadow Mask. Or
Yeah, or
was it Shadow something?
Key Mask or
Face, or,
Shadow something.
I probably knew at some point.
Yeah.
From memorizing the Mario 2 manual when I was a kid.
Yep.
But I don't remember it now.
But just pain in the butt, because you got to keep throwing the key away and then picking it back up again. And here he comes, and which direction's he coming from this time? And then Lakitu, I was annoying because when he drops the spinies, it's randomized, and there's not really a good... Well, I mean, there might be a pattern to it. I'm sure speedrunners have figured out, like, how to get through those levels more easily. But for me, it always just seemed like you never knew which direction he was going to go when he was going to drop an enemy. And the enemies that he drops, you usually can't even step on. So it just made the levels like 3 times more difficult. So I was never great at those Lakitu levels. So did that give you any inspiration, Todd, for your
Yes.
favorite?
And as soon as you mentioned Wario, it came to mind. Wario is fine as a character. Like, I didn't have a problem with him. He had purpose in the games. Like, started out in Game Boy, right? Was the first one Super Mario Land 3?
Yeah.
Right. Was the first Wario game. But
Well, he was
he was the final boss in Mario Land.
You're right. You're right.
Yep.
He was. So his first, I guess that would have been his first appearance. But the rest of the, I guess you could call them anti-characters, like Waluigi, and I don't even know the names of the rest of them. But like,
Are there more than Waluigi?
I think that there are. Aren't there anti-versions of like Princess and?
I want to see them if they are. I mean, I know there's Bowsette, but that's a fan creation.
Like an evil princess from the Mario games. That I want to see.
That would be kind of cool.
That kind of does it for me. I don't know about you guys.
Kinda
Peach
does it
and
for
Wa
you.
Daisy.
I thought that there were, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'd have to.
Not that I'm aware of, anyway.
But at a minimum, Waluigi, it just seemed like
Toad.
they I just never really saw where they fit in the universe. Like, Wario has a purpose. The other characters just seemed to exist to fill out like a Mario Party roster.
Mario
Right.
needed a doubles partner in tennis.
Literally, that's the reason he was invented.
Right. So it's like, why are you here?
Yeah. And there are people that like him. I mean, there was a huge fervor over Waluigi not having a character in Smash Brothers for Switch. So, he does have his fans. But you're right. He never had his own game. He never really had a explicit reason for being there other than to kind of be the shadow to Luigi for Mario's Wario.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I can see.
So that's my answer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's find out what Mustin has to say about his favorite and least favorite characters.
As far as Mario characters, I don't know all this stuff. I'm not, I don't keep up with all the latest games and all that. But I do love all the core characters. I don't really get into the out in the weed stuff. Like, I know a lot of people are about Waluigi. I don't really get it. Wario, I kind of got. But one of my favorite games is Super Mario Land 3, the Wario Land. I love that game. I love that music. So I'm a Wario fan, and the WarioWare games are hilarious to me because they're just, it's like playing a game with the Joker. I think my favorite character right now, I would say, is Rosalina, because there's something about her. I think I've always just had a thing for girls who like have hair over one of their eyes. I've never been like the cartoon anime girl guy, but I don't know. There's something about Rosalina where she's got it going on. Of course, the brothers, and I love the princess. I love how the princess was represented in the movie recently. I like the idea of her being more kick butt and less damsel in distress. Toad is funny. I loved playing the Color Splash game and reading all of Toad's lines, and they really made it funny. And I've always loved Birdo for some reason. Remembering even when I was looking at the game when I was a kid and seeing that Birdo was someone who liked to dress up like a girl, and I was like, okay, I can get with that. But I think there's something about Kamek that I really, really love. I don't know, it's just something like a love-hate, the idea of like this magic wizard. But Kamek reminds me of Bowser, and of course, I think even though like Rosalina's up there right now because I just recently did a bunch some music from Mario Galaxy and was like getting footage from the game and seeing her and stuff. The only like tattoo of anybody I would get from the Mario universe would be of Bowser, just a big one on my back, like the Super Mario 3 art style. And then at some point in my life, I would like to own a home that has a driveway and then those 2 brick columns that you have there. One of them tends to have like the mailbox in it. I would love to have the Mario 3 Bowser statues. So yeah, that's where I am on the Mario characters.
So you started off with that, and I thought he wasn't going to have any good ideas, but you wrapped it up really nicely.
That would be pretty great. And honestly, there's a part of me that's trying to plan out if I could do something like that with my garage now.
But yeah, I didn't listen to these ahead of time, so I'm reacting to them for the first time, and we were very close to each other on the whole love for Wario thing, so that was really cool. Yeah, Rosalina always felt, not like she didn't belong, but she felt a little too cool for the universe almost. Like everything's so playful and sweet and friendly, and then Rosalina's kind of like this badass bitch that's running around in this galaxy ship, and then drives that motorbike on a Mario Kart 8, so...
All right. Yeah.
The personality of the princess in the movie is almost kind of like what Rosalina is in the actual games.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, it's cool though. So she'll be even more badass if she shows up in the movies. Let's find out what our listeners had to say. So this was our Patreon topic. So all of our responses will be from our lovely dear patrons. Chris Murray starts off saying, Super Mario World is my favorite Mario game and I've not played all of them, so my immediate reaction was that my faves are the classics, Yoshi, Boo, Shy Guy, and Koopa Troopa, because he is his main in Super Mario Kart. I also love Geno, like tons of people do, and Waluigi is made all the more amazing because he was created as a doubles partner for Wario in Mario Tennis. Ironically. I don't think I hate any of the characters. Well, maybe that damn son from Super Mario Bros. 3. Okay,
I forgot about that. Yeah, that is
and
fair.
Baby Mario from Yoshi's Island. I can literally hear the stupid crying sound as I type that out.
Oh, I forgot about the son.
I never
That's
played
super annoying.
Yoshi's Island, so I don't have that guttural memory of Mario, baby Mario being a jerk. So.
I mean, amazing game, but damn that crying.
Yeah.
It's pretty...
There are hacks that remove the crying or make it like he only cries like the first time he like falls off your Yoshi and then stops. So maybe if I ever do play the game, I'll probably install that hack. Let's move on to what the Dyad has to say.
Mr. Dyad says, favorite, Bellum. I love the oddball Goofus characters in the Mario-verse, and maybe especially those forgotten one-offs like Bellum. Honorable mention, Blarg. I think those were...
either of those.
Bellum was a character, I think, in Super Mario RPG, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
To the internet.
I don't know where Blarg is from. So
Blarg is
the
that...
Dyad digging deep on this one.
Well, Blarg I know is from Mario World. He's that dragon that comes up out of the lava.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The lava dragon.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure Bellum is...
I think Bellum is one of the maybe bosses in Super Mario RPG.
Yeah, Bellum Mario RPG.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the guy with the big
Dog-like
tongue.
monster that is perpetually hungry.
Okay. I recognize recognize it, but I didn't remember the name at all.
Interesting. What about his least favorite?
Dyad continues, his least favorite, the angry son in Super Mario Bros. 3. Seems like a popular choice.
2 votes.
As a kid, I always got swerved by this dude. He killed me so many times. I don't know why his timing always surprised me. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, it was definitely pattern-based, but if you didn't know to expect it, came on fast. And those damn tornadoes.
The tornadoes sucked, and then the sun would go up, and then it would spiral around a couple times, and it was like never a set amount of spirals, and he never like started coming down when he was at a certain spot in the spiral. Plus, you had to concentrate on making your way through the level while he was doing that anyway. So, yeah, the developers were pretty sadistic when they created the sun. What about our next one, Joe?
Professor Tom writes, I think my favorite Marioverse character is Bowser. Normally I don't like incompetent villains, but because Mario is such a cartoony, kid-friendly franchise, Bowser works. He's selfish and kind of dumb, which makes him more amusing than monstrous. That's
Agreed.
Totally fair.
And Jack Black plays him really well in the movie, and you like the character a little bit, but you still acknowledge that he's the bad guy.
Right, for sure. And he's definitely... His personality is powerful, definitely. And you see that he's got... Well, I don't want to spoil too much, but you see both his power and his vulnerability in the movie, which I think is really cool. And he uses them in concert with each other. So I think he's probably the deepest character out of everybody in the movie. Ryan Steele says, when deep diving into the vast lore of Mario, there has to be thousands of characters. I really like the companion characters in the Paper Mario series as they life and personality.
As they add life and personality, maybe?
Probably, to often one-dimensional characters. To name a few of my favorites would be Cooper, Vivian, and Parakarry. I don't know any of these characters. Okay. As for my least favorite Mario characters, Nabbit from New Super Mario Bros. Irks me for some reason. I don't like him. Probably because his only job is to steal. Kamek is also a character I don't like, but mostly because he's usually annoying to deal with. I kind of like Kamek as a character. And I like the fact that when he shoots those, like, spiraling shapes that kind of, like, they're the PlayStation shapes for some reason, but, I don't know. And he was pretty good in the movie, too.
Yeah,
Kamek.
I thought that as like, Bowser's sidekick, it worked really well.
Yeah. So we had 2 votes for the son, for least favorite. Almost everybody's favorite character was different. We had some people disliking Waluigi for the same reasons that other people like Waluigi. So that's why, I mean, it kind of demonstrates that Mario's got something for everybody. And, you know, one thing that it makes a character great for one person makes him not so great for another person.
A late runner-up at addition, whatever character would ask me incessantly, and I've mentioned this before, if they wanted to, if I wanted them to help me get through a level in New Super Mario Brothers or any of those games on Wii where Nintendo was like, we'll play the game for you.
Well, you just got to get good then, so you don't see that anymore.
I was trying to, but it kept asking me if I wanted help.
That's fair.
No,
Very
go
fair.
away!
But yeah, I mean, if I had thought about the son, I would have probably put that on my list too, considering my 2 least favorite characters are very much in that same kind of dropping out of the sky to annoy you vein. All right, let's move on to our last topic and my last track. So I'm going to play a track from Mustin's Mario Mixtape, and I'm going to have all the links where you can pick up and listen to Mario Mixtape in the show notes. And I will also post it on the Discord as well, so be sure to head over to thevgembassy.com for ways that you can grab Mario Mixtape. He does have it up on YouTube, but then there's also a couple links where you can stream it, like Spotify, and actually purchase a copy for yourself. So I'm going to play one of my favorites from the album, Attack of the Airships from Super Mario Galaxy, originally composed by Koji Kondo and arranged by Mustin. All right, that was Attack of the Airships from Super Mario Galaxy from Mario Mixtape. Composed and arranged by Mustin, originally composed by Koji Kondo. And, of course, this is my favorite one because it's got the most kind of industrial vibe to it, kind of like on the darker side. I really like the drum line behind it all. I felt that really helped. It gave me images of like Koopas in the background, like, you know, as the airship comes in, kind of like all on the drum line, banging on the drums as Bowser walks towards the castle. So had really a lot of good imagery there. Plus, I love the blending of the 8-bit instruments with the, you know, traditional kind of more modern instrumentation too.
This was Mario Galaxy, not Mario 3?
Well, yeah. So I think it has elements of the Mario 3 airship theme for sure. I guess they rearranged it for Mario Galaxy. I just don't really remember it as much as I do the Mario 3 one.
I guess for me it's the opposite, since I put so many hours into Mario 3. That's what I immediately thought of.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I remember the Mario 3 version. But it said Mario Galaxy on the album itself, so I'm assuming that, you know, more of the
Creator's going to know
there.
better than us.
Exactly.
Either way you look at it, though, it's an awesome track. I really dig this. I'm going to have to listen to the rest of the album.
Yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it. I know I did. So that brings me to my topic, and it's music focused. What are your top 3 Mario game soundtracks? And as kind of a disclaimer, I said I'll count any mainline Mario game that he stars in as long as he's not a background character like the referee in Punch-Out or Excite-Bike or something like that.
Well, I'll go first. For me, it'd have to be the ones that I played the most during my formative years. Obviously, we have a bit of nostalgia for our teenage and, you know, around that time years. So for me, it's going to be Mario 3, Mario World, and Mario 64.
There you go.
I mean, while I love probably all of them, those 3 I spent the most amount of time at and have the most nostalgia for, so I got to say those ones.
My answer is going to be almost the same as Joe's, although I'm going to throw in Mario Land 2, as we just discussed, in the pile. Where those 3 or 4 games are, like what order they're in, I can't really say, so too bad you get 4.
This one's tough for me because it's like wrestling between like soundtracks that meet my modern sensibilities of what VGM should be and the nostalgia glasses. Because my first gut reaction was Mario Odyssey because I love that soundtrack so much. Every world has a completely different set of music. There's like everything from surf rock to symphonic to spooky like Danny Elfman style stuff. Then all that like crazy thrash metal at the end, which was friggin' phenomenal. So I think I love that most in terms of a soundtrack that I'm going to kind of like listen while I'm driving around in the car, and kind of like want to rock out to. As far as the classic game soundtracks go, I would probably say Mario World. I think as much as I do love the Mario 3 soundtrack as well, I think I was already really into video game music at the time. I was already recording NES soundtracks to tape, and when I heard the real sampled instruments on the SNES plus the stereo sound, it just blew me away. And I got the SNES on launch day with Mario World. So it was like the very first time I ever heard SNES music. So I specifically remember just like, oh my god, what am I listening to? So from a nostalgia point of view, the Mario World soundtrack is absolutely the best. So I'll go Odyssey, Mario World, and then Mario 3. If that makes sense.
I always loved in Mario World when you jumped on Yoshi and the bongos came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super
It's like one of my favorite parts about the music in those games is how it would change just that little bit when you're on Yoshi, but was otherwise the same.
Yeah, and it would stick in your head too. Like I can still remember the bongos. Like as soon as like you said bongos, I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah. And it's so plucky and fun.
Yeah. And also, you know, a new technology in music that was not previously available on the NES. Because with the NES, like they're just trying to squeeze as much audio as they can into those 5 channels, and even removing channels for sound effects.
Right.
And then the SNES, it's like, holy cow, you can actually add sound, you know, and have the sound effects going. So it was just even more impressive for me. I think I was an early teen when the SNES came out, so I kind of had a better idea of... And Nintendo Power did a lot of articles about the technology behind the SNES and what made it more than the NES, and kind of almost explained like the SPC 700 and how the sound worked before we even have it in our hands. And I think that was mainly what got me interested in the hardware of video game systems and what, how they worked. And then just hearing it in real time when it got, to my house was even better. So a lot of cool stuff there. I'm sure Mustin has some great opinions on his favorite 3 soundtracks. So let's take a listen to that.
Wow, top 3 Mario soundtracks is really tough, but I gotta keep it real tight, I think, because for me there was that golden age of both nostalgia and establishment of melodies going forward. So I'd say that for me, number 3 is probably Mario 2. Those themes are so catchy. There's not a whole bunch of music, but every track in the game is unique and complex and fun in its own separate way. And that boss music is just, it's so good. There's so many great battle boss themes people kind of forget about in Mario music, in the Mario music world. But number 2, I would say Super Mario Bros. 3. Just so much music compared to the first 2 games. There's more music in Mario 3 than in 1 and 2 combined. Great themes. The maps music's never got old. Of course, I have an affinity for the water music, but the pipe music is great, and even the ice music, though it's just very, very short, still is very gangster. The last boss with Bowser, all of those level themes, the castle music, so iconic. But for number 1 Mario soundtrack for me is going to be Super Mario World. It's like Mario 3 on steroids. Every world has its own music. Every level, and all the level themes are great. And I think that my favorite piece of video game music from the Mario universe is the subcastle music that you hear in all the castles. I've done a bunch of arrangements of that. I just love it so much. It's such an interesting piece of music, and of course the end credits is unique in that it just sounds like a TV game show. I don't know. It's just such a wild thing, and I love the special world music and how it transitions into a bit of the original Mario theme. It's just really special. It's just definitely the one that sticks out for me. So if you have to know what Mustin's favorite Mario soundtrack is, it's Mario World, baby. Super Mario World.
So you and Mustin are coming from kind of different. You're coming from I think you're coming from an analyzing the music perspective more than I am. When I gave my answers to this question, it's basically pure nostalgia, and I think Joe's with me on that.
Yeah,
it's like those are the Mario songs that I hear in my head when I'm if I think about Mario. And you're like, well, in Super Mario Odyssey, there was all this, different stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, but Mario World, man,
right, and I get that, and Mario Odyssey's old enough for me to have a little bit of nostalgia for it at this point. I 100% of that game. I spent a lot of time in Mario Odyssey, so it feels almost as much like a home Mario game as the originals do to me at this point. But also, I think to Mustin's point, a lot of the freedom that composers had with the SNES sound chip led them to be able to experiment more, game show style stuff. And there were, I think the Bowser theme had a really thrashy kind of a rock sound, even in the Mario World game, before they even kind of brought that theme back for Odyssey. So it was just stuff that you didn't see on the Genesis, because it was just FM chip, and you kind of had your set instruments, and that was it. Whereas, in Mario World, you could get a whole bunch of different instruments. You can get ragtime, you can get cinematic, you can get spooky. And they all worked really well and all sounded extremely different from each other. So, I don't know. That's kind of like what made it so special, I think, as far as music goes in the Mario universe.
Think we're going to get a Mario Odyssey 2, or had they said anything about it?
I would love a Mario Odyssey 2, but maybe now that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be released next month, we'll hopefully maybe start seeing another Mario game for the Switch. They kind of need to...
Or are we going to see... Or is the next big Mario game going to be on the Switch successor?
Yeah, that's
The Switch is getting a little long in the tooth, but Nintendo hasn't said anything about what the next thing is going to be. If anything, they're doubling down on the Switch.
Well, I'm curious to see whether, like E3 is canceled, not enough people wanted to do it. But I'm curious to see if that time of the year is still going to remain a big announcement time of the year. If we're going to see just a lot of major Nintendo Directs and PlayStation Lives and, all these things just kind of still happening in that June area where E3 used to be. And maybe something might happen. And I think with major games coming out like Tears of the Kingdom and potentially a Metroid Prime 4, if they do have these major games in the works, they're not going to announce new hardware until after those games are, either out or almost out, because they're afraid it's going to cut into sales and everyone's going to say, well, I'm just going to wait for it to be better on the next video game system, whereas they'll all get it now if they don't know if anything else is on the horizon.
The only problem, though, is that because of the age of the Switch, they're going to have a hard time making Switch ports of new games that are coming out now for other consoles and PC, because the Switch just won't have the capability of keeping up.
Right, and that's a very valid point, too, and it'll just end up being more and more indie games and less of the,
I think it kind of already is. I mean, there's AAA games still coming out for Switch? I don't really think so.
Not so much, and if they are, they're very stripped down versions of them.
I think it's Nintendo first party, largely Nintendo first parties, indies.
Yeah.
And like remakes of older AAA games. But I don't know that anything like... I've been following it that closely, so I may be wrong about this, but I don't know that any of the like big AAA games that have come out recently have been ported to Switch. Outside of like...
Yeah, I think you're right.
Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
But what else has there really been? I can't think of anything, but I also don't really turn to my Switch when I think AAA games, so I may just have missed them.
But I mean, would the Switch even be physically capable of porting a game like Elden Ring or Hogwarts Legacy or something
Elden Ring,
like
definitely not.
Yeah. So, maybe that'll push them into releasing new hardware or
I mean, they did
Switch Pro or something like that.
They did the original Dark Souls, and I think that was pushing it.
I was impressed with how well that worked. I didn't think it would, but...
No, that's a little console that could, for sure.
It still can, sir.
Yeah, I still love my Switch.
No, there's good stuff coming out for it. I'm very, very excited about Tears of the Kingdom. I really can't wait because I loved...
3 weeks.
Yeah, I love Breath of the Wild so much. All right, so... we're going to start off with Red Hua's opinion. This was our public topic for this month. He originally thought that I had asked what the favorite singular piece of music was for each game. And when he came back to me, I was like, oh, I actually said, full soundtrack. So do you want to change your opinion? So he changed his opinion and gave me new answers, but also asked if I could read his original answers as well. So there's a little bit of content from him. But we'll start off with the soundtracks. He says his favorite soundtracks from Mario games in no particular order after much deliberation, and he's going to leave out the obvious classics, which I think everybody else
we did not.
We've basically covered that.
So Super Mario Galaxy first. I just love the adventurous orchestral feel of this soundtrack. It kind of moved towards making Mario's adventure feel more epic, but without straying from the Mario feel, if that makes sense. I also don't think that there's a particular standout track in the whole game, but it's just very consistent compared to the other game soundtracks.
For sure.
Yeah.
Number 2, Mario 3D World. Lots of jazzy goodness and other varieties of bangers. Yeah, I do like the 3D World soundtrack. None of them have really stuck out to me very much, but again, very consistent. And 3, the hardest choice, but Mario Hoops 3-on-3. That came out of left field.
What?
It was between this, Mario Odyssey, and Sunshine. I guess I just like the more EDM, trancey feel of the whole soundtrack.
Interesting. I've never played this
I
game.
don't think I know that game.
It's Wii U? Maybe GameCube or Wii U, I think.
I'm going to have to look this one up. I don't think I know that game.
Yeah, it's not a Nintendo published game either. It's one of the second party developers that made it. And so his favorite Mario tracks are the Map 1 Overworld / level theme from Mario World.
Yep.
The reason being, simply aside from being a certified classic, it's just one of the happiest tunes ever to be composed for a video game. Up there with themes like the Chocobo theme, or How to Walk in Liberia from Trails in the Sky, or Music Factory from Sonic Advance 2, among others. Super Mario RPG Forest Maze.
Oh yeah, it's a great one.
It just has the right blend between Mario's goofy nature, the feel of an RPG field theme. Very catchy. And the last one, Super Mario Bros. 2 / Doki Doki Panic, the Underworld theme. I'm a sucker for underground / underworld / sub-level themes that stand out from the theme of the rest of the game, similar to Creeping Weeping or Law and Disorder from Final Fight 2 and 3, respectively. And he said 3 was a very hard choice. Wow.
Still a great answer.
Yeah. Lots of good tracks there. Some good stuff. Some deep cuts, especially Mario Hoops 3-on-3. Let's see what Bedroth has to say, Todd.
Bedroth says, great topic. Number 1 for me is Super Mario Galaxy, which seems to be a popular choice. I surprised myself with how quickly I made that choice, but on reflection, it shouldn't have been surprising. I love that epic orchestral cinematic sound, and it is still distinctly Mario. Mahito Toyota apparently worked closely with Koji Kondo to make that happen. Gusty Garden Galaxy is one of the 5 best compositions in Nintendo history. That's quite a statement.
That's fair though. I mean, that is an amazing track.
Second is Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. Yoko Shimomura is my favorite composer, so again, probably no surprise. This soundtrack is one of my nostalgic favorites. It is really unique while again still fitting the Mario universe. Still fitting the Mario universe. And it set the tone for all Mario RPGs going forward. Fair. Great soundtrack. And I didn't even think of it, and I might have thrown that in to one of my answers, because I love that game. And third, I'll cheat a bit and offer up Super Mario Maker 2. The Maker games are real love letters to the series, and the music is no exception. It's got great tunes from across the Mario history, and Kondo even came back to compose new music for retro environments that didn't exist originally, like the Ghost House music for Super Mario Bros. And Mario 3. Looking forward to hearing our thoughts.
Yeah, that's kind of a cheater, the Mario Maker 2. But again, it's got most of the best tracks from all the classic Mario games, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 3, and World. And it was really cool when Koji Kondo came back to redo those retro tunes for the other levels. So I guess that counts.
I never played Maker 2. I got the first one largely to play levels that other people created. But then when you started getting those absurdly difficult levels that none but the best Mario players could ever beat, it started wearing on me. So I never got into the second one.
There's a Kickstarter that completed recently for a game called Super Dungeon Maker, which is going to be, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but it's
basically Zelda Maker.
Basically, let you make Zelda dungeons, which looks awesome. So for people who like that kind of thing, but wish they had one for Zelda, the Kickstarter was successful.
So are they making it look not like Zelda and then just allowing people to mod Zelda sprites into it or something?
I'm guessing that's what. If it hasn't already happened, I'm guessing that it will happen shortly.
That's pretty cool. What does the diet have to say?
The diet says, in no particular order, number 1, Super Mario... no particular order, but they're numbered. Super Mario RPG. To me, it is a great blend of the SNES traditional JRPG soundtrack with the whimsy of mainline Mario. It's one of my favorite games of all time, so I have a particular affinity for it. Number 2, Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. I think of this as sort of a continuation / upgrade to the Super Mario RPG soundtrack. And that sort of makes sense because that is what Paper Mario turned into, a spin-off from Mario RPG. The soundtrack has a collection of great and strange sounds and instruments. And number 3, Mario Paint. Nice. Sticking with the theme of odd and quirky, the tracks that are available on Mario Paint are great. And the sound set is so beloved that people still use modified versions of Mario Paint as a kind of DAW for making music.
That's true. There's a lot of really experimental stuff that Kazumi Totaka, among other composers, used in Mario Paint. I really like that soundtrack. And
with regards to Mario RPG having a great JRPG style soundtrack, I'm reminded especially of the Final Fantasy II track that's hidden in the end of Mario RPG, where you have the battle with Kulex. And I remember just the first time I played that, and I lost my mind when I recognized that track.
I mean, Mario RPG came out at a time when Square was just on top of their game, and they were pumping out just amazing game after amazing game. So it's not much of a surprise that Mario RPG endures as an incredible, even Mario game. But you know, they later did the Kingdom Hearts games too, and I don't know why Square is able to do those games so well, but they did it.
Yeah, they just have a huge pedigree for that kind of stuff.
Amen.
Some sort of secret formula that they keep winning with over and over again.
16 times anyway for Final Fantasy.
Jeez. not counting the Final Fantasy X2 and Dirge of Cerberus and all that extra stuff.
All the spin-off stuff.
Yeah. Alex Messenger says, picking my top 3 Mario soundtracks is like having 20 kids and picking 3 of them to be your favorites.
No kidding.
Here's what I have come up with. Super Mario Bros. 3, easily the best of the NES trilogy with its varied world themes and catchy level themes. The 8-bit sampled drums in a lot of the tracks was pretty badass. Highlights include the overworld theme, athletic, and airship theme. Yeah, the sampled drums in Mario 3 were very cool and made it sound very unique.
Yeah.
Next up, Mario Galaxy. The soundtrack blew me away with its mix of orchestral and electronic sounds. It was honestly a huge leap in the potential of the Mario sound. Highlights including Gusty Garden Galaxy, Bowie Base Galaxy, and Good Egg Galaxy. So we're getting some similarities between a lot of other people here. And lastly, Mario 3D Land. A bit of a different pick, and a lot of people could argue that 3D World had a much better soundtrack, but 3D Land had a certain charm to it. A lot of tracks allude to the soundtrack of Mario 3, which is not a bad thing at all. Highlights include Overworld Theme, Beach, and Clock Tower. I get Mario 3D Land and Mario 3D World mixed up, because I didn't really play much of either, so I couldn't tell you which soundtrack belonged to which, and honestly even which game systems each one was on.
I think they're both Wii U games.
Are they?
I thought one was
well,
3DS.
Mario 3D Land.
I thought that was 3DS.
Maybe
Maybe I'm not remembering correctly.
I thought Mario 3D.
Oh no, Mario 3D Land was Wii U, and I think 3D World was Switch.
To the internet. I think Mario 3D Land is like a pseudo, like side-scrolling.
That's New Super Mario Brothers.
No, but I think Mario 3D Land is also that. I may be very, very wrong here.
Boy, we're really showing our age here.
my mind is leaving me.
Platform game in the Super Mario series.
That one
came out on
3DS. Yeah, no, I'm thinking of something completely. I'm thinking of World then.
Oh, okay. So yeah, 3D Land was on 3DS, and then 3D World was on Wii U. Yeah. See, 3D World was on Wii U.
All right, I stand corrected.
Which I guess would make sense because the Mario Land games were on the handheld systems, and the Mario World game was on a home console. So kind of using the same nomenclature there. Yeah, and then okay,
you win this round, internet.
Next up,
Ryan Steele writes, top Mario soundtracks. Mario RPG, obvious choice. Mario 64, obvious choice 2.0. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, because I'm a Kirkhope stan.
They're very verbose there, Ryan.
I don't understand that term.
What?
Kirkhope stan?
Yeah. You're just like a fan.
Oh, okay.
Super fan, more or less.
I don't think I've heard that before.
It's from an Eminem song ages ago. Anyways, I don't want to explain it on mic because it'll take an hour.
Okay.
But yeah, so I guess Mario RPG and Mario 64, we should know why he loves them. Because they are obvious choices.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it is the third or the fourth time Mario RPG was mentioned?
Yeah, and at least the second time that Mario 64 was mentioned. And Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
I like the game, but I don't remember it having a particularly standout soundtrack.
No.
Because I really like Tacticals, but I mean, it had a soundtrack, but I don't remember. Like, I had put a lot of hours into the game, but I can't think of a single track that I'll say stuck with me.
Well, I guess if you're a Grant Kirkhope fan, then it would stick out with you more.
Fair enough.
Who knows? Anyways, yeah, so we had a lot of similarities here. We had a couple of standouts. It turns out that people are very, very serious about their Mario stuff. I got a lot of responses very quickly when I put out the word on Discord that these were going to be our topics. People were very happy about it, and people were very verbose in their answers, except for Ryan at the end there. But he actually gave us a pretty good answer for the first one that he answered. So that's very cool. We want to thank Mustin, of course, for chiming in. He had some really good insights as far as some of his favorite music, some of his favorite characters. It was really interesting to get to know him a little bit better and kind of apply that to, how he's making his music and why he loves making stuff like Mario Mixtape so much. Like I said, again, we're going to have in the show notes links where you can find more of Mustin's stuff, listen and download Mario Mixtape, and hear the rest of the really cool album that he put out. So thank you, Mustin. We're going to get together and do an actual VG Embassy show, hopefully sometime over the summer. We'll talk about what theme we're going to do together, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun because I think he and I jive very much on our game and game music opinions quite a bit. So, yeah, now I feel like playing Mario, so I think this weekend is going to be a very Mario weekend for me. Actually, speaking of which, Logan and I have been playing Super Mario Bro-Op, which is a ROM hack of the original Super Mario Brothers game, but it's 2 players simultaneous. All the graphics are redone, all the levels are completely new, and they're kind of like dual-tiered levels, so you kind of like have to help each other get through the levels. Cool. It's really, really cool. It's infinite lives. You just have to start back at a checkpoint if you die.
Was that like a Mario Maker thing, or
no? Just a ROM hack of Super Mario Brothers. You can play it on a NES. You just stick it in your EverDrive, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun with it. So definitely worth checking out. It's got original music, original graphics, original levels. So that's going to be fun. We're about halfway through it, so I think we're going to play the rest of it this weekend. Chill out. As usual, I'd like to thank Jason Letourneau for our usual podcast theme song, which did get substituted in for one of Mustin's at the beginning, but I think 1 out of 44 songs is totally cool. And of course, all of our Patreon patrons, starting at our tourist level, Cameron Childs and the Phantom Meyer, our VG emissaries, Chris Meyer, Chris Murray, Gannon 11, Keyglyph, Kyle Kroll, the Dyad, the Last Rican, Professor Tom, our audio attaché tier, Cameron Worma, Carlos from the Heroes 3 podcast, and Scott McElhone, and our special agent tier, Ryan Steele. Thank you so much, guys. We're going to have a fun new VG Embassy episode coming up next. Speaking of Professor Tom, he's going to be joining me for a look at some sweet Sega arcade games. So there's going to be a lot of FM goodness going on.
Oh, cool.
With that. Yeah, and then we'll all be back again at the end of next month with our next Embassy exclusive. Take care. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
See you later.
Zelda next month.